Welcome back. Please click on Follow Presenter, and we're going to take a look at encoding problems. I never like running into these things, but it's been a while since I have. Uh, Running into these encoding problems, these are often operating system specific. Quite often, you'll end up having to play around a little bit with your locality settings in your operating system. They can be a little bit tricky to debug because the limitation could be in one of a number of places. So let's take a look at some encoding issues. So when you're looking at the encoding issues, there's a number of things that could have gone wrong. Could be that the workspace is reading the data incorrectly. It could be that the translation is translating it incorrectly. Could be that it's writing it incorrectly, or it could be a problem with the format itself. An example of a debug of an encoding issue, you end up with these characters, something like that. And in the output, you end up with a bunch of question marks. So now you're in a situation where you got to figure out where things went wrong. So the first thing to do is inspect the source data before reading. You can open that up in FME. If you open it up in FME and all you get is the question marks, then you may need to look at settings in FME. You may need to look at locality settings in your operating system. It could be that FME is simply not able to read that. You should, of course, confirm that in the native application for that format. I've had a number of situations where someone's complaining that FME is incapable of reading something in. They're expecting something like this. They're getting the question marks. And then when we actually inspect it in the native application, turns out the native application doesn't support it either. Could be actually an issue with the file format. So we inspect it in the native application, inspect it in FME. In this case, both of them are looking all right. So now the problem obviously isn't with the reading, it's either with the transformation or the writing. So inspect the data before the writing. That's easy enough to do. Run the translation, inspect one of the caches before writing the data out. Ideally, the last transformer before writing the data out. It's entirely possible that you could end up with some transformer which is mangling things. It could be an issue with an underlying library in one of the transformers. It could be that you're using a Python caller and that's not handling the encoding correctly. There's a number of things that could be going wrong there. So a visual preview looks like it's okay, then the problem's probably in the writing. If visual preview gives you a bunch of question marks, then something's happening in the transformation itself, and you'll have to track down what transformer is doing that. It could be a parameter in the transformer. It could be that you end up having to contact support. And then inspecting the output data set. So you can inspect the output data set again in FME. Again, it could be that that particular reader for that output format is having a problem. So I'd also inspect that in the native application, just to confirm that you're getting question marks in both places. If you still end up with the question marks in your final output, the next thing to look at is, what does the format support? In this case, if we're writing out to a CSV file, the encoding of the CSV file might not actually support it. So inspecting it in another application, some things that you can go back and check: the character encoding. In this case, this particular character encoding for the writer does not support the characters that we had. So you'll have to play around with the character encoding setting in the writer. So I think for the most part, you should be able to get away with this. I have had times in the past where it's an OS level setting. The operating system itself couldn't do it, but that was a long time ago. So I would play around with the parameters in the writer first before you start worrying about what the operating system is capable of doing. Generally speaking, I find encoding issues to be a bit of a pain. If you do run into these, go through these steps, but be aware that you may need to contact our support team, or at the very least, post a question to the FME community. Okay, so please review that lesson. Debugging encoding problems. It's 10 minutes. 10:57. 57. I'll give you a break on top of that. So let's come back in 20 minutes. We'll continue at 12:08. And that'll be our final break of the day. Okay, good luck, everybody.